It's my community. It's me knowing that I have nieces and nephews that can actually live in a society that I know I helped shape for the better.
This is Champagne is Also a Band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign-Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign-Urbana music scene, past or present. Champagne is Also a Band podcast is proud to be a part of the Champagne Showers Podcast Network. Hello, my favorite listeners. I know this is a little unusual to have a special episode before the actual episode that I recorded. Episode 61 is coming in a few weeks, and surprise, it's Justin Michael Hendrix. He's a write-in candidate running for Champaign City Council in District 3. I thought, you know what? This human has some amazing things to say, and mid-conversation, it seemed like the right thing to do was to share part of our conversation with listeners before the election. Either way, vote for him, don't vote for him, but get out there, vote. Just get out there and vote. I'll be posting a link to the Champaign County Clerk's office for you to find your polling place. This is a great time. If you haven't voted yet, get out there, figure out what you want to do. Vote. Do it. That's all I gotta say. Just get out and vote. Here is an excerpt from my interview with Justin Michael Hendrix.
Yeah. So if you choose to vote for me this election season, you are to go to your local polling stations. You also can find your local polling sites at the city clerk website. You are then to take your ballot, whether you go by mail and drop it off in the ballot box, which we know that are now open now, or you go inside to vote. When you get your ballot, you will then look for the District 3 of Champaign. You will see two options for two other candidates, and then you will see a bubble with the blank line option. You are to fill in that bubble all the way, and then write on that line, Justin Michael Hendrix. And then after you do that, you then have now casted your vote for me for the city of Champaign's District 3.
I'm kind of curious, though. I want to talk a little bit about Hittin' Homeboy, your organization. So how did that begin?
Well, Hittin' Homeboy started when I was living in St. Louis, Missouri. During the time in the unfortunate murder of Michael Brown, I really was brought into advocacy full force and wanting to really use my voice and understand the power of the people when we take a stance against things like food insecurity, racism, social injustices that still exist in the world. And after that time of living in St. Louis, Missouri, protesting in Ferguson, my building got broken into multiple times. My dad was like, bring your ass home. So then I returned back home to Champaign, and I really wanted to be more active in my community and make sure that we regain those things that I seen from a child, but then also understanding the things that need to change that I seen from a child that still existed, which were many socioeconomic disparities, a lot of discrimination that still exists in Champaign today. Even down to our legislation, we still have home rules that exist from the 1970s, which were built and birthed off of Jim Crow and Birth of a Nation type of mind frames, which are not prevailing to Black and brown bodies, let alone elderly, LGBTQ, disabled communities, and other marginalized people. From there, Hittin' Homeboy, we became more active and more proactive in the community within the last couple of years, within the rebellion and uprising due to the recent death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and a few others. Sadly, even in Champaign currently with Kewan Carrington, as we too are a part of this ongoing history of police brutality that we too do not acknowledge because we're a small town and we pay attention to national news. Going back into Champaign, I then was called out during the uprising, and I became a huge leader and voice for the unheard in the city streets. I made sure I provided resources with my partner, Marshall Alston, by creating food pantries, providing mutual aid with friends and people like Megan McDonald, making sure that we instill hope in hurt areas with people like Rita Connerly when we would go around and deliver things to families that are in need. Acting as a resource hub without actually having all the resources, but having the community at large to help us create a culture of humanity over charity, as I believe in humanity comes from the heart. Charity, you have to constantly think about what you want to give and how to give it. So we just reestablished a sense of education, advocacy, and community culture for Hittin' Homeboy. And from there, that's really like pushed me to really drive Hittin' Homeboy in Champaign-Urbana to be a door for people to always come into for a wraparound approach, because it's tough out here. We have to make sure we have services that are providing 365, 24/7 access. I don't believe in providing services through office hours or in an office space. We have to get out here in the streets, because that's where it starts. It starts in the streets.
With all the obstacles that seem to be cropping up in front of you, even just this campaign, what do you gravitate towards? What do you focus on that is your source of hope? How do you keep going? What do you hold on to?
I hold on to my values. I hold on to my community. I hold on to the city of Champaign-Urbana. I'm born and raised here. I'm a native son. I understand the ins and outs of this city, and I've been able to navigate successfully in and throughout the city, including Campus Town, which we know has been very separated from the community. We know that there's a big division between Campus Town and the community. I've been able to be the driving force and the beacon for intersectionality when it comes to Champaign-Urbana and Campus Town. When it comes to my petitions, it shows you that money can allow certain obstacles to be placed in front of a person, even when they are following the directions thoroughly. They can still be set forth with obstacles placed before them to then try to conquer. I did not financially have the means to obtain a lawyer or seek the guidance of resources like my other counterparts or opponents would have been able to, because they're backed by a machine. They're backed by public officials who can apply pressure on people, unlike myself. Only thing I can apply being a Black queer male is probably fear, by knocking on their doors and asking them for a vote, because they're looking at me as far as stereotype, not as far as who is with me, to then try to stroke an ego to make them understand that it's okay to be at the door and being a person of color. I would say that what pushes me is the community. Like I said, my pillars: education, advocacy, community, culture. It's my community. It's me knowing that I have nieces and nephews that can actually live in a society that I know I helped shape for the better. Even as a preschool teacher myself, I'm a preschool teacher in my second year at Urbana School District, but I've been teaching preschool for over 7 years, including in St. Louis at Wash U. But just knowing that I have a hand and impact in the future of children, not just in the classroom, but outside the classroom, that to me is also a touching moment for me, because I can make sure they're safe in schools and make sure they're safe out of schools. Because as a teacher, I can only keep them safe for so much and for so long in a certain time frame. That is another reason why I continue to go for this. And to me, I feel like I can't be stopped. Like they say, can't stop, won't stop. Just want to be really truthful to myself. And that's just all about what hip hop is. Hip hop is just a movement that doesn't stop. I even push hip hop in my platforms at all time, because that's what I grew up on. Shout out to Dr. William Patterson. That's one of my main mentors growing up, because he taught me about the upbringing of hip hop, from Crush Groove to Def Jam. Everything about the upbringing of hip hop. He taught me history through hip hop. And also, with that being said, I learned to then also channel hip hop in my movement, in my conversation, in my initiatives, because hip hop is what is gravitating the masses. And also, not even on a bigger scale, Black culture gravitates the masses, and we are the main source to the mixing pot that we all claim to be a part of.
Thank you for listening to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. This is Justin Michael Hendrix, your write-in candidate for District 3 in Champaign, reminding you, get out and vote now through April 6th.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
Studio, South Peter, on the inside.